right, I'm up and rolling right here. Should I go ahead and intro the podcast once again?
Legend, you good?
Sure, man. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Carlos, you can go ahead.
All right. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Apathetic podcast. Obviously, you got your main hosts, Carlos and Micah Reeves, and then join us. Special guest is Legend Morris.
What's going on?
Oh man, not much, man. How you been these days?
Just chilling, hanging out.
Chilling. Dude, I heard that you're coaching basketball now. You wanna tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, I'm coaching the 5th grade team, and starting tomorrow, our first practice, so it should be interesting.
Nice.
You did you make like any pre-made plans to go into it, or are you just gonna wing it, or?
Not really. We're just running read and react, so it's a pretty simple offense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt there'd be like any specific plays like Cougar or like Mixer or, anything like that since it's 5th grade. But anyway, the reason we're doing this podcast today, is because we got a very special topic to talk about. Thanks to all of you guys who voted on Micah's Instagram about which topic we should talk about. It was actually suggested by Ryan Frampton, but sadly he can't join us today, so hopefully we'll do a part 2 of this. But that topic is problems with society today, 2021. Oh boy, yeah, there's quite a lot of issues out there for sure.
A lot of issues with society around today.
Yeah, so would any of you guys like to start first, or do you want me to start with like what I was kind of thinking of at first?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So one of the problems I think we face as a society nowadays is the inability to have civil arguments with people. So an example of like arguments that we would have that are civil, fair, reasonable, even professional is, back at Stillwater when we would do Harkness discussions. Now, of course, in the Harkness discussions, we would have like, 10-minute periods of dead silence. But regardless, the stuff we would talk about, we would, be fair with how we said it. We would say it in a kind manner, no toxicity or any of that stuff, no hate or anything. But now with society today, and especially I think really relevant nowadays with people's opinions over the COVID stuff and the political right or left or whatever side they're on, there never seems to be arguments where they're able to just thoroughly listen to a person that they disagree with and like take their info into consideration. You don't have to agree with the person, but I think it's most important that we just shut up, we listen to what they have to say, be respectful to that person's opinions, because as much as we may think, or as entitled we may be, everyone's opinions matters at the end of the day. And so I think it's important to make sure to keep an eye out or an ear open before, and just listen to what someone has to say before you go out and like spout any kind of criticisms you have, like any hate or anything like that. So for example, I got I have a Twitter account, and Twitter can get like pretty political sometimes, and I won't go into I don't want to make this too much of a political podcast kind of thing. But basically some influencer shared like a meme online that was in support of like more mandates and control with COVID related issues. And then I kind of responded like not not with hateful, but just with question. I think it's always good to like question authority, question influencers, because in a way, a lot of people think that if some famous individual, movie actor, singer, whatever, says something political, or well, it has a very strong opinion on a social issue, that can lead to a lot of loyal fans of that certain individual to jump on the hype train, cheer him on, just keep on going with whatever they agree with. But anyway, I basically said, kind of like how I usually am, with a witty remark, and kind of memed it back a little bit. But then all of a sudden, it started like this whole thread on Twitter of just a bunch of like people who clearly did not agree with me whatsoever. And of course, instead of like presenting me with any facts or evidence or statistics to try to counter what my argument was, all what they did was say, I'm a brainwashed psycho, I'm a white supremacist, and I am uneducated. I mean...
So you got cyberbullied?
Well...
On Twitter?
Yeah, it was Twitter. I mean... I guess statistically wise, I did get cyberbullied, but I mean, those of you who know me, like, that kind of stuff doesn't affect me, especially if it's some random person who's just like that. And I never said anything like disrespectful or anything. I just said one thing, and all of a sudden people got triggered because it's so easy for people to just type on their phone or on the computer, oh, I'm offended. I didn't like that you said that. Now, you can be offended by whatever I say. I don't care. But when you have like no proper response to it, and you just respond with, you suck, I hate you, go die, or whatever, then how does that help your case? Because by you ending the conversation like that, I by default win the argument. Just saying. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the more recent experiences I had, especially after we graduated. And I just, I was like, I kind of want to do more research on politics a little bit. So yeah, I ended up doing that. Any examples you guys want to share? Because that's pretty much what I have for now before I get on to my other ideas.
I don't really have any examples of backlash from things that I've said on social media, I guess. But I have realized that a lot of times people don't really do their research, and they're not necessarily open-minded. They like to stick to what they already believe, and they don't look at the other options. And if they do research, they always do research on things that they already believe. They don't really do research on the opposite side of things, which is important to do to get a good, well-rounded knowledge in a certain subject, is to look at the pros and cons of it. So that's just what I would say on that, I guess.
Yeah. And to kind of add further on to that, I think the main problem that, like, the terminology I've come up for is read news article titles, stop reading, rinse and repeat. Because I feel like that's kind of what a lot of people do nowadays, and people are just so willing to just trust whatever news articles come out, like the New York Times, Fox News, whatever, and just take every single word to consideration like it's law, like it's fact, when really they don't look at real statistics, and they don't look at both sides of the argument, and just tend to go off like no bias based on that.
Yeah, kind of what you were talking about earlier, how like people won't like listen to other people. Like if they find something that you say that they don't like agree with 100%, they're gonna just look at you as like someone who is just like a complete Nazi and just completely wrong in everything that you say, and you're just a terrible person if you don't support the, like, for instance, the vaccine mandates that are going on right now.
Oh my
Like
God,
a
man.
lot of athletes that are coming out and saying like, I don't want to get this because I'm just not sure about it, everyone just attacks them for it, and like
Mm-hmm.
they have no room to kind of make their own choice and believe what they want to believe. It seems like.
Yeah, wasn't Kyrie Irving's the one I'm thinking of? Like he's not apparently he's gonna lose like over 300 grand like every home game if he like doesn't get vaccinated because they won't allow him to play unless he gets vaccinated, which I think is completely ridiculous, absolutely unconstitutional, and it just completely suppresses like a lot of our freedoms.
Yeah, I don't really understand the vaccine mandates. Maybe we want to
Yeah.
get into that later, but yeah, I just completely don't understand
Well,
a
I
lot of
think
that
it's
situation. It's not necessarily the NBA in that situation. It's more like the state of New York.
mhm.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of
Yeah,
dumb.
for sure. And I think Los Angeles, which is already like a horrible place, which has been a horrible place for a long time, but it's now getting worse because they're now forcing people to do things outside of their own will. Um, and in terms of like vaccines and stuff, I mean, I personally never had one. I'm assuming you, like, neither of you got it either, or like any of our like old high school friends ever did,
Mm-hmm.
because like we just believe in our own like natural immunity. We're like young, healthy people. We're not worried about it. Some of us have even had COVID, and it's actually safer statistically wise. It's you're less likely to get COVID if you already had COVID than if you got double vaxxed and didn't get COVID yet. So yeah.
Well, yes, I think we should move on to a different topic. Um,
Yeah, sorry,
Getting
that was like
close to
my
getting
little.
political, I guess, but not quite.
Yeah, that was kind of my little rant about that.
I
Sorry
thought we
about
were
that.
doing like a political thing, or no?
Nah,
Well, it
nah,
can
No.
get.
nah.
Nah, Mike is afraid. You see, here's what I'm talking about. Mike is afraid that someone's gonna listen to this podcast and get like super offended, like some social justice warrior is gonna get really offended, and then we're gonna get cancel cultured. Which, by the way, I kind of want to talk about cancel culture in a little bit, but I feel like I've already talked a lot. Is there like any other like specific issues, Micah, that you would name that aren't government related, even though like a lot of these originate from the government? Like a lot of problems originate from the government, but the society of America is kind of like what you want to focus on. Is that where you're kind of going at?
Um, One of the main things that I would say is wrong with society nowadays is the way that not specifically young women, but most young women don't really have to work if they don't want to, because they could just go on TikTok or OnlyFans or other things like that, and how they
Mm-hmm.
can just get money and they're not actually contributing to society in that way. They're just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, showing off
There's
their
no.
bodies and dancing and blah blah blah. And it's not just women; it's the men and the children too. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
uh, people, young
But a
people in general.
majority of it is women as well. That's kind of what
Well,
you're implying.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of people, but yeah, it's just I don't think that it's helping anybody. Sure, I guess they're entertainers, but I don't know. It's just not necessarily something that's a benefit for society because all you're doing is dancing around. And I mean, for a guy, you can't really do that. I guess for stuff like
Nah.
YouTube, if you're funny, you can be on YouTube, or if you're good at something, you can be on YouTube. But for
Mm-hmm.
like the TikTokers, all they have to do is just do a little dance and wear not very much, and they can get millions of followers. So I don't know. I just feel like
Absolutely.
that's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it kind of suppresses like work ethic a little bit. I think another problem with society is work ethic has been hindered a lot. The federal government, has been paying a ton of people to just stay home and not work because of COVID. And then kind of like you said earlier, there's so many like people who are like on the internet all the time and can just, like you said, just dance in front of a camera and then get millions and millions of like followers and like clicks and stuff. And it's like society, I'm using video game term. It's like they put them on the easy difficulty. And then for people who don't do that, who actually kind of want to put themselves out there in the world and make a name for themselves by, physically attending places and putting in hard work, it's like those people got put on like the hardest difficulty of the game. I know life isn't a game, but you kind of know the comparison I'm getting. I mean, with my job that I'm working right now, I mean, it's a lot of hard work in very early mornings, and then right after my job, I got to go to Writing 101, which is the worst college class ever so far.
Yes.
And then I got to go home, and yes, writing sucks. And then I got to do like the numerous assignments for that, and then all of a sudden I'm like super exhausted. I need to like go to sleep now. Then I wake up again and boom, it's time to go to work. But like I'm not necessarily complaining about all that. Like as much as I like don't admit it as much as I should, hard work is technically a good thing. It can mentally be better for you, because if you just sit around like doing nothing, that'll actually like mess with you like mentally a lot. And I know that happened with me when after we graduated back in June, and like I made no plans to like do anything so far. Like I didn't have any like job applications in. I didn't like I never scheduled any meetings with any college advisors, because like I just wasn't ready for it to end. It just kind of ended faster than I thought. But then like that whole month of June, I was just kind of moping around and just not doing anything with my life. And then like a month later, I decided to take initiative and actually get a job, get ready for college, and just kind of put myself out there. And I feel like those people that Micah, that like you talked about, it's like they don't have to do any like that kind of like gritty work or anything. They just, like you said, dance in front of a camera and boom, like all that cash comes in. I mean, they probably make like what, 10 times more money than I do these days. It's just insane.
Well, going back to what you said, Micah, about like the TikTok and OnlyFans thing, don't you think like a similar sentiment could be made about like pretty much anyone in the entertainment industry?
Yeah.
Like they're not all like breaking their back, but they're
Yeah.
still. I would argue that they are still like, not specifically like the OnlyFans girls or whatever, but like I would say like actors and like musicians and stuff, like they're still a benefit to society. But I feel like you could make that same argument that they don't like deserve that money or whatever that you made with the OnlyFans thing. You could make that same argument with like actors and musicians.
Well, when it comes to acting, like the top actors of the world, like Leonardo DiCaprio or Dwayne Johnson or Robert Downey Jr., Johnny Depp, and like all these actors, they when they go through an acting process, like what Micah means by the OnlyFans thing is like, they just turn on a webcam and then do stuff, like, what I mean. And then
So
no, let me finish. But like with actors, they gotta go to like acting schools, and they gotta like they kind of gotta get their foot in the door a little bit. They gotta actually go on for years and years, and then like hopefully they just happen to get a role that's really good for them. And with the movies nowadays, movies nowadays are at such a much higher quality than how they used to be, back during the mid 1900s, back when there was just, little, like the biggest TV at the time was like my computer monitor size, and like everything was like all goofy. And now movies are like trying to get a lot more emotional, a lot more like grounded and just very, and there's just a lot of like, even though it's a lot of the work that actors and musicians do may not be as physically demanding, it still is like a lot of work on their end from like an acting perspective. And also there are a lot of actors who star in like blockbuster action movies who are literally required to like do some intense like gym training. That's why like every like superhero star actor you see like in like Marvel movies, for example, are like shredded, like 8-pack abs or whatever. And not only that, when these actors have access to like social media or something, like I think a problem with like an issue that actors face is sometimes they can't say the opinions that they really have unless if those opinions support a certain political group or certain like things that like certain they're like, or if they're like pro vaccines and pro masks and stuff. And that's kind of where cancel culture spikes up. I mean, that's the main like way that people take initiative to quote unquote cancel these famous people is they'll go on like Twitter or Instagram, just dig down, try to find something that they say or said that was quote unquote offensive to them, and then just point out that one specific flaw and try to shut them out. And that's why who's that one girl's name from The Mandalorian? Do you remember her name? Like Gina.
I don't remember.
No, I don't remember her name. But anyways, getting back to what Legend was saying. Yeah, she got canceled, blah, blah, blah. What Legend was saying about how we could just say that any entertainer isn't necessarily doing anything for society. What I meant by that was people on TikTok, like the dancers and stuff, it's not necessarily like a good side effect that happens for society off of those. Movies and stuff, and even, like sports counts as entertainment too. That's what I would consider a good entertainment that brings, just, it brings society up, probably spiritually, I would say. I can't think of the word right now, but like the morale of the society goes up because of movies and because of sports and stuff. I don't necessarily think that TikTok dancers or OnlyFans or anything like that brings up the morale of society. They're not necessarily contributing anything to society spiritually.
So
Yeah,
you were like, so you mean
agree.
like I agree with you too, Micah. So you mean like they don't contribute? You're not saying that they don't contribute anything in terms of like work ethic, but in terms of the legacy they leave behind for people. Is that what you're kind of indicating?
I'm just saying that they're not, I don't know, they're not making society better. Movies can make society better and sports can make society better because it's entertainment that makes people feel good and that makes people, like if I see a football game and I see all the hard work that people put in, it's going to make me want to put in the hard work. Or even with movies and stuff, seeing somebody make a movie, it makes me feel good and I could talk to my friends about it. But with
Absolutely.
TikTok dances and stuff like that, watching those, I know it makes some people feel good, but it's not the right type of feeling good. I would
Yeah.
say. It's not a productive
Yeah.
feeling good.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think I think I think almost everyone can kind of relate to like what you mean by that for sure. And like just to kind of like give an example of how like movies, like big movies, like affected me in a good way. I actually like got into like storytelling and like just how cinematography and like how movies are made and stuff. And like that's why like I like movies so much, and they and like fight scenes and stuff, like especially with Star Wars. And I mean, when we were making Space Cops Remastered and all those like fight scenes we were doing, it was like all those movies that, you know, influenced me in a good way, just like how they, you know, how simple movies like that, you know, it's little things like that that can influence society in a good way. But of course, like the OnlyFans and the TikTok dancers, they cause people to just you know, do stuff that's it's just not really good for. I don't think it's necessarily good for people to just be always engaged in that all the time. And you know, I won't get into too many of the details around that because I don't want to make this like a vulgar podcast or anything. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the type of entertainment that it brings. Like it's more of a negative form of entertainment, like a not as moral form of entertainment. Whereas like sports, like you said, like kind of has the power to unite people at times, as well as like movies and stuff. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Yes. Well, Carlos, you got anything else?
You know, I was just thinking I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I mean, I was gonna speak on the cancel culture stuff, but I feel like I kind of already explained it a little bit.
Well,
Unless if you guys,
everybody kind of knows what that is too, I guess.
well, should I at least? I'll probably add a little bit more, not into like what cancel culture is and what it does, because we all know what it does. I mean, we've already seen the results of that, such as like Kevin Hart, Johnny Depp, and Mandalorian girl.
The baby.
Maybe.
I said the baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
The rapper,
the baby. Sorry, your mic. Yeah, the Wi-Fi kind of cut out for me.
Ooh, you have trash Wi-Fi.
Hey, the Chiefs game is on right now, and I don't know.
Patrick Mahomes scored a touchdown.
Any,
More points for my
of course
fantasy
he
team.
did. Dude,
Stephon Diggs
dude,
just.
Aaron
yeah.
Rodgers like completely botched my game today. He only got 19 points, and then Freeman has Justin Herbert. And, you know, he averages like maybe around 20-ish points. No, Freeman literally got 42 points out of this guy. I mean, I'm still winning, and I'll probably still beat him this week. But man,
At least your starting quarterback's not out 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson.
I should have like prioritized getting running backs and wide receivers during our draft. Anyway, that's my fantasy football rant. That's inconvenient to society problems.
Mm-hmm.
What I was saying about cancel culture is I think that act shows that people are unwilling to believe that other people are capable of evolving, you know, changing, along with not being able to give people second chances. And I'm kind of talking more on the side of, you know, someone said something really bad and offensive, like maybe 10 years ago, like maybe something racial or something homophobic. And, you know, how I wish a conversation about this would go is, hey, you know, that thing you said 10 years ago, you know, I really didn't like you said that. And then the person who said that should go, you know what, me too, I kind of agree. I wish I didn't say that. Maybe I should like delete that or something. Like that's not really a thing now. They just all of a sudden take the one thing that someone has said like many, many years ago, and they're just like, you know what, this person's bad, let's cancel them. And I think that is poor philosophy. That's and really bad justification for trying to throw shade on someone. I mean, Micah Legend, if you, I'm sure at some point in your two's lives, you two have said something, you know, not publicly, of course, but like in your own lives that would be quote unquote offensive to a big group of people, you know, along with me too. Like, and you guys would technically be cancel culture for that. And it's like society just doesn't understand that, people are not always the same. I mean, I wasn't the same person I was like 10 years ago. I mean, I was just a little kid 10 years ago. So, like, I just don't think it's really fair for people to just point out one tiny little thing that someone says and then just immediately not give them the benefit of doubt, not understand that they've changed over those 10 years, and just conclude to their own argument that this person's bad. Let's get them at it. Let's get them out here. Let's get them out of Hollywood. Let's fire them from their musician profession or from whatever sport they're playing or whatever movie they're working on. Let's get rid of them.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird to dig up stuff from like 10 years ago or whatever. Like just last week, John Gruden, the coach of the Raiders, he got an email leaked, and the outrage about it, like he said something that could be inferred as racist. And so like the outrage from that has been kind of brutal. But when you look at it, it's 10 years ago, like
Mhm.
I think it's less about like, or it's so like the person can change, right? But also we can look at that and see how much like society's changed. And like society 10 years ago is like definitely not the same as it was or as it is now, you know? So I think
Mhm.
they should be able to look at that and also say, um, like look how far we've come, like look how much we've improved since this, but instead it's just attacking the person and like
Mhm.
trying to drag them down, excuse me.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I were to, if by some miracle I happen to have a microphone where I can just speak to literally everyone, broadcast to everything, instead of saying, "Hey guys, look how far we come. You guys have done a great job. Woohoo! Hats off to you." I would probably say, "This is what we're doing right now. We This is a big problem, but here's how we can fix it, and here are some solutions for that." And to be honest, my solution is just make society the way it was back in, like, I don't know, early 2000s. I mean, because that's like the only type of society I remember. I mean, I can't say, back in 1980s because I wasn't born around that time, but I was around during the early 2000s, and I kind of have an idea of how it was back then. And my mom like constantly, like every now and then, just tells me how like people and the media and the public have just changed a lot for sure. So yeah.
I had a video that was canceled by YouTube one time. I was so I made this video about this TV show that had this gay guy on it, and the gay guy
Wait,
was kind of.
you never told me about this. What? This is like a first time
Oh
story.
yeah, because the video got
excited.
taken
Okay.
down.
All right, I'm excited. You tell me more.
So I made this video about this TV show that had a gay guy on it, and the gay guy was one of those gay guys that's like flamboyant, I guess. Every emotion is exaggerated, and probably like 14-year-old me was like, lol, this is kind of cringy. So I made a video on it, and then YouTube was like, no, can't do that. So then I got taken off, or that video got taken off, and then they moved my channel status from green to yellow and threatened to kick me off YouTube. And I was like, okay, I don't do that again. So I never did it again. But I don't know. It's just, especially with YouTube and Twitter, they're really powerful in what messages they want out. And you do realize, or you can realize that channels that support certain things get put are given more generous ads than channels that support other things.
Yeah, they suffer things like, copyright strikes for whatever reason, and like demonetization. Yeah, I'm not sure as to why or how YouTube and Twitter and all these other outlets of media are just negatively affected by this, but it just doesn't really make sense to me how, like, I don't know, I don't know, is it like, is the company of YouTube itself like run by a certain group of people that are in support of like some political stuff, or is like the algorithm trying to be more in favor of one vast majority of a political group, or whatever? Like, any of you two know, like, Micah, would you happen to know anything about that, since you're actually like on YouTube a little bit?
Um, um, okay, I'm gonna get a little political here, but
That's fine. That's fine.
YouTube has a little bit of an agenda that they're trying to push, and they believe that the American society is identified with colonialism, is what they call it. So they believe that the way that we are right now is too much white. We are too white in our society, and what we do is reflected by that. And not like modern day white, but they think that we're too much 1700s white with, trying to conquer other countries and trying to expand and being mean to the Native Americans and having black slaves and stuff like that. They want people to believe that we're still in an age like that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull us apart from one another by putting us into two groups, or even more than two groups, by saying, this is the blacks, these are the whites, these are the gays, these are the straights. And they're trying to spread us out and put us into two separate camps, and they're trying to make us war against each other, so that way our society could fall apart. And then once it falls apart, they want to rebuild society to make it into, what they want it to be, where they're in power. But that's just my idea.
I mean, I doubt it's something YouTube will like publicly state, because that would cause like a lot of hate from people. But I mean, you don't seem far off from what their real agenda seems to be. So, I mean, based on like statistical evidence on like, viewership numbers and channels getting taken down and like demonetized, I mean, it seems like somewhat reasonable that they would want to do something similar like that.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely have a left-wing agenda with what they're promoting and demoting. I think the argument that I've heard of like what caused that is like it really starts with like the colleges. So like when they go to college, they're like indoctrinated in this like left-wing ideology, and then when they go to be the heads of these like big technology companies, they're all of the same like brand of thinking, since they all went to like a college that's like that. So it just kind of like they're just kind of feeding off each other with their ideals, and I think that's kind of drove them to push their agenda that they all have.
Yeah, I like the example you brought up with the college. That actually reminded me of a story my mom told me like maybe a month ago now. Apparently, one of her friends' daughters was kind of like on the political right for all of her life, and then she went to like a certain college that was in a blue state, or like a blue like town or city,
County.
and then a county, thank you. And she like all of a sudden like her viewpoints just completely changed, just because she got influenced so easily. And that's kind of another weakness I find with like people today, is sometimes a lot of them can be so easily influenced, whether if like it's by just because like large groups of people try to get them into that. And there's like other different types of influence too, and I'm not talking about just political views. There's influence with drugs, with alcohol, with other body related pleasures. And so it's just seems like a huge problem, and that kind of makes me think that people are, once again, not willing to just listen and just completely think about what's going on in their current situation and form their own opinions about something. Instead, they're just going with, you know what, like, these certain people are going with here, like, this large group of people is in support of that, therefore I am. You know, it's like, I think there's too many people pleasers nowadays, and a lot of people just need to not be afraid of showing off their own true and honest opinion, regardless if a majority of people like it or not.
Yeah. I want to make it clear that I personally don't think that Republicans are right on contrast to what liberals are. There's, let me restate this. There's points from both sides that I can agree with, and there's points from both sides that I can disagree with. So, if you're a Democrat listening, I don't really want to be like, you're wrong, because I know that what you think is what you believe, and what I think is what I believe, and everybody has their own beliefs. But what we're getting at here is that corporations like YouTube and colleges, they shouldn't be so one-sided. They should try to give more than just the liberal side of things or just the Republican side of things. They should give both sides, because that's how people can get a fair and honest education.
For sure, for sure.
Well, anything else?
This is usually the part where, like, Mr. Tinkham would, like, spout in and, start saying a few things, or when we would, like, go to the next question on, like, a sheet that we made, which I know none of us, like, even thought about, like, making, like, a sheet or a list of things, like, questions to ask, because I mean, we never answered the questions that Mr. Tinkham gave us anyway. Either that, or we said 3-worded answers like God is science.
God is science.
Look, I know, yes, that is
true. Do I need to explain it?
However, that's not the answer that Mr. Tinkham was looking for.
It answered his question.
No, okay, what was the question?
I don't know.
Question?
I can't remember what the question was. I just remember that God is science did answer his question, and he was like, "Are you proud of this answer?" And I was like, "Yeah, God is science."
Okay. If Mr. Tinkham, who is smarter than me and you combined, says that it's wrong, that I think it says that you didn't answer the question as he was, like, asking you to. I don't think you answered the question as.
Do you think God's not science?
Oh my. Okay. You're trying to manipulate my words. That's another problem with society. People like to try to manipulate other people's words. Take a couple phrases or terms out of their sentences. But anyway, all I'm saying is, like, Mr. Tinkham, he did the typical. He would look at what my answer sheet was. He'd be like, "Okay, good job, thank you," give me like 10 points. And then he goes to you. And now usually what he would do is, he would kind of like stare really hard at one of your answers and be like, well, what is this? Well, what is that? And then you would be like, "Oh, I don't know." But, like, this time he just full out, like, picked it up, put it right in his face and said, "These are horrible. Are you proud of these?" And then, you said yes, which I'm glad you're standing your ground and all, but I feel like he was more disappointed in you saying that you were proud of these.
Well, I said that if I was going to rate myself out of 10, I'd give myself a 7.
No, you said 4.5.
Did I?
4.
Maybe
yeah,
I
you
did.
said 4.
Maybe I did.
You said 4. Okay, God is science.
God is science.
Like, answer. I mean, okay, Micah, if I asked you, is God science, and you said God is science, I would give you a 10 out of 10. However, if I was to give you this Mr. Tinkham, like, paragraph long like question, and you just
ask
responded with
ask a
God
question,
is
Carlos, and I'll answer it. Any question.
okay. Okay, any question. I can ask
Theological
you
based, though.
any theological base. Okay. So, on what evidence can you support that man were not created, did not evolve from apes?
Since God is science, he created us.
I mean, you didn't have to say God is science. You could have just said that God is our creator and
God
made
is science.
us. He did. Well, I mean, science is like a terminology used to describe and like educate those on like on like
Do you
on our
think God's
biology.
outside of science?
You're some piece of work. You know that?
Do you?
Yeah, I do know that. You've said the same exact thing to me like 30 times before.
Said what?
That I am some piece of work.
I said that?
Yeah.
When
And
did I say
honestly, you said that like maybe a few months ago, you know,
What?
when you were trying to like send me something that so that we could work on Space Cops Remastered, and I said, I didn't get it. The format wasn't right." And then you texted back, and this was before we did voice chats and all. You said, "Sigh." You typed, "Sigh, you are some piece of work," and then you sent me the right thing. But hey, that's fine. You know, so I kind of
I don't
agree with
remember
you.
that.
Sometimes I can be kind of a pain to certain people. Like, I will admit, like, sometimes I can be kind of a jerk. But anyways, um, so yeah, moral of the story, God is science.
Yep.
There you go. I mean, if you want, anyone needs an answer from Micah, you already know the answer. God is science. All right. We should probably like move on from that whole thing. Honestly, we didn't talk anything like societal. It was all just Mr. Tinkham and Harknesses. But anyway,
Do you
are
have
there
anything
any?
else to say in this podcast?
I mean, I've honestly like kind of. I feel like I could think of something, but that might take me like a few minutes to actually manifest like a big brain idea of mine. So
We've been going for about 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Yeah, okay. And I'm not.
We
I
can have a
don't.
part 2 with Ryan next week.
Yeah, I'm down. You think we should just end it right here? And
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
okay. So quick recap. You know, Legend was talking about how. Well, okay. I'll start from the beginning. I talked about how people are not willing to like fully listen to each other and give opinion and like conclude with their own opinions, and the arguments just aren't civil anymore. Micah was mainly talking about how TikTok dancers and like OnlyFans people, the type of like entertainment they create is more negative entertainment than positive entertainment, like sports, movies, and music. And then Legend was also bringing up how like with how colleges and like different environments can influence other people in the wrong way, instead of giving people opportunities to just educate them on both sides of the story and give them an opportunity to form their own viewpoints. So yeah, I think that kind of sums up everything we talked about, right?
God is science.
And God is science, yeah.
That's right.
We went on like a 20-minute rant on that, but yeah, God is science. You know, I mean, according to you, like a 10 out of 10 answer. You know what? I'll take it for today. I mean, I'm not asking you any super complex theological questions, so you know what? I'll take that answer. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. If you guys sticked around this whole time, I'm gonna quote Andy. You are awesome. I appreciate you. Good job.
Yes. Ryan says he's sorry for not being able to be here, but he did say that he promises to be in the next one. So thank you guys for listening. This is part 1 of the problems with society. We're going to have a part 2 next week with Ryan Frampton, and maybe I'll try to get a hold of Little Uzi Vert and have him on too. Anyways, yes, thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.
Yeah, and thank you, Legend, for being a special guest with us. Hopefully, we can get you and Ryan next week. That would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Take care, everyone, and have a good day.
Yee.
Nice.